All right, so welcome to stage two of Design with Purpose. This is our second, well, we could basically call it our third day of workshop if we're considering the crash course that we did. So this is where we'll be going into stage two of ideas to visuals because the first day we went into a little bit of visual communication and symbolism. So for stage two, guys, we're going to talk about typography, right? Now, you guys remember where in the crash course we mentioned the type tool. So yes, um, typography it's basically everywhere. We look from is there from billboards to the posters that we see outside to even the websites and the games we play on with dialogue and the title screens that we see on those games. So believe it or not, none of us is as new to type. So this is what I found as the dictionary meaning of typography. Typography is the arrangement, style, or appearance of text. So as I said, typography is not really something that is new to us. It's something we use all the time when we create documents or even as simple as writing on paper. So in general, typography can be pretty intimidating when you think about all that is there that creates what you look at, right? Because it's much more than just shapes and letter forms. But I can really guarantee to you that typography is one of those things where you just need to know a little bit of what it is, just a little insight of what to do with typography, and you'll be able to do some real damage in the design game. Right, guys? So,
Yeah, Avengers game, boy.
hey, so you'll be able to
I was
just,
Wait,
trying to.
what?
you'll be able to really do some damage just by learning a few things about typography. So, it's not much needed to learn about this just to get started.
Hey, I'm using a character in there, man.
All right. So, the most important thing I wanted to show you guys is how to pick and choose fonts, right? So, when you're picking and choosing fonts, there are a lot of things that you have to consider is what type of feeling you're trying to create when people look at this font, and what type of font should I use. So before we choose fonts, we need to break down the different types of fonts that exist out there, right? So first, we're going to go into the first one because it's everything in typography is connected to what feeling you're trying to allow people to see away from just the words itself. So the first type of font that you're going to come across, or you're probably seeing it right now, is
Yeah.
the serif fonts. So the serif fonts, these are actually the little strokes that you see at the end of the letter forms. You see these little parts that are highlighted in green. You'll see them at the ends of the letter because this specific font is is a font called illustration,
Oh,
right? So these little green highlighted green parts of the type, this is what you call a stroke. These are the strokes that you call serifs. So serifs is usually the traditional clean type of font mostly used in print media like magazines and newspapers. The feeling that you get when you use the type of fonts is usually around traditional or respectful or reliable. That's the kind of feeling that this font helps create. So anytime you want to achieve that type of feeling, this is definitely the type of font that you're going to use. It's also one of those fonts that you use in body text. So I don't know if you know guys, but Times New Roman is actually a serif font as well. So you find that you use it in a lot of body text mainly. Alright. So going to the complete opposite of serif, we have sans serif fonts. The word sans in sans serif is actually French, which means without serif. So it's more like without this. It's more like the same thing but without the serif. The feeling you usually get from this type of font is usually around modern, clean, and stable. It's actually bold, and because it's so easy to read and understand, these are the type of fonts that you mostly see on websites or on the computer screen, your smartphones, tablets, etc. Yeah, because they're just so easy and clean to look at. So whenever you're thinking of a clean, modern type of font that is, it just looks straightforward and stable, sans serif is the way to go. And lastly, we're going to go into our last type of font. We have our display fonts. So display fonts are actually where you find,
I like display fonts. Like I love display
yeah,
fonts.
the most stylish fonts, the most decorative fonts out there. Because they're so decorative compared to the others, these are the types of fonts that when you're using them, you would use them in small amount of text. So you wouldn't find people using display fonts in body text. Just let you know, body text is, when you type in large amount of text in a document. Yeah, so that is body text. So I think this display font is actually Algerian. Is Algerian. There's, yeah, I actually have a very huge font list over time. Yeah, so this one is Algerian. So the type of feeling that you'd want to get when you want to use your display font. You'll get a decorative, expressive, a unique font. Most movie posters actually use display fonts. This is the type of fonts that you see in headers, you know, and big graphic um copies to grab your attention. If anything, any YouTube clickbait title that you see that draws you in is probably a display font, right? So in other words, there's a lot of fonts out there. There still might be trouble in selecting fonts because if you're doing paid work like I do, you're going to have to run through licenses. You're going to have to check whether or not you could use these licenses as fair use or if is you have to pay for
Commercial and all the
a
stuff.
commercial. And sometimes you might have to go as far as actually emailing the person who is, who owns the font so you can get the approval of using this font. I have done so in the past. Um, Sometimes they'll charge me, sometimes they'll allow me to use it for free based on what I'm doing.
Charge them
Yeah,
and fight them.
yeah. So to save you some of the trouble, just some of the trouble, right? I actually typed a few free fonts that I use. These fonts actually stand the test of time, and I would recommend that when you go online, you search for the whole font family. This is where you get the different variations of font. well, different variation of fonts, ranging from bold, heavy, um, book, thin. Yeah, they have different variations. An example of this would be the text designing with purpose. You guys seen it?
It
Yeah. You notice how purpose is bold, and then you have a much slimmed version of design with both of them is the same typeface, but it's two different fonts. So that's how I'd recommend you download the whole family because you'll probably get like seven
whole family tree.
seven fonts. So Futura is actually
Too good, man.
a sans serif. Helvetica is a sans serif. Trade Gothic is a sans serif. These three are both modern sans serif. I use them almost all the time. The one that I'm currently using on this whole thing is Trade Gothic. So it's actually proven to be useful. Bodoni, this is a serif typeface. It's actually help. I actually use it a lot. Bodoni as well as Trajan. Trajan is actually the font that they used on the Congress, the Library of Congress. That was the old logo. The old logo, because they currently rebranded it, right? So the old logo, Trajan was the typeface that was used. And lastly, Rockwell. Rockwell is kind of a mixture between some very hard serif and display. I use Rockwell in most of my logo designs where I would use it and some of, I would edit most of it because you can do that. You can alter the text to make it your own. And this is what we're going to go to in our mini activity. So just closing off the presentation, guys. I hope you liked it, right?
Yep.
And now we're gonna skip to this mini activity that we're gonna do. All right.